Hi YouTube, it's your boy Grassy TV. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're checking out my full build guide for the Lightning Surge Stormweaver in Season 6 of Hero Siege. The Stormweaver is a lightning-focused mage class that excels in high burst damage. It harnesses the power of the storms to unleash devastating area of effect spells, zapping multiple enemies at once. With abilities that synergize with lightning damage, the Stormweaver is highly effective in clearing hordes while maintaining mobility to avoid incoming threats. Its playstyle revolves around precision casting and leveraging elemental mastery for maximum impact. This build is going to offer a smooth leveling process for both beginner and advanced players. In the guide, you'll find information on build functionality, a step-by-step leveling guide, a full Garian section, and much more. Now, before we get started, a quick disclaimer: this guide was created during the closed beta phase of Season 6, and it's based on the content and mechanics that are available at that time. Please note that certain features, balance changes, or other game elements may be updated or modified as the game progresses towards its official release. The information presented here may not fully reflect the final version of the game, and some aspects could be subject to change. While I strive to provide accurate and effective build recommendations, future adjustments by the developers may impact the viability of certain builds and strategies. Always refer to the official patch notes for the latest insights. Let's get into some pros and cons of the build. First, you are ranged DPS. Ranged DPS is safe DPS. You have built-in passives for faster cast rate, life, resistances, mana, reduced cost of skills. There's a ton of passives on Stormweaver. You also have a magic damage reduction buff, a teleport at level 16. This has also been buffed. You have a bit more range on this teleport at level 1 at level 16 than you would before in season 5. You just didn't get as much range. However, the high end of it doesn't get as high in terms of range. You also have really nice AoE and big lightning chains. You hit one enemy and your chain lightnings will chain everywhere. It's very, very pleasing to watch. Now, you are going to have below average single target until you have high amounts of gear. I'm warning you now. The class does not have the best single target. It does get better, and there are ways that we'll talk about how you can get some good single target on Stormweaver. But initially, if your goal in Hero Siege is to kill all the bosses and to get into Inferno difficulty, as fast as you can, Stormweaver is not going to be it. Okay, it's is going to have a below average single target. I'm not saying that it's so there aren't some more advanced players. You might get lucky on some drops, might be able to make some stuff happen. But generally speaking, most players are going to struggle when it comes to single target on the Stormweaver on League Start. Now, let's check about these skills. First, we have Lightning Surge. That's obviously our main damage. We shoot out a bunch of chain lightnings. They proliferate everywhere. Really nice. You have a movement skill, Gateway. That's how you teleport around. You have a damage aura, right? You can just turn on this aura. This gives you increased lightning skill damage for you and your party. This is actually a really nice skill to pair if you're playing with like a lightning paladin or something. Could be a good option. You have a ton of utility with different actives and passives, such as Static Shock to debuff enemies, Symphony of Thunder to give yourself additional lightning damage. Hypercharge is going to give you increased cast rate. The Battery Within will give you life, mana, and all res. And then Aftershock and Mana Fiend will give you reduced mana cost of your skills, as well as whenever you kill enemies, you have a chance to drop a lightning on top of them, which is really cool. If you are enjoying the build guides, please consider supporting the channel. I will have a donation link in the description below. Thank you to everybody that's donating. You guys are awesome. Next, we have the skill trees. In the written guide, I will have all of these skill trees that you're going to use from level 1 all the way to level 100. A couple of tips here. One, be sure that you use Stormbolt as your main bosser early in the campaign. So like Acts 1 through Act 3 of normal. This feels really good. However, it will start to fall off. So once you start feeling it fall off, you can drop that for Apocalypse of Thunder instead. Quick pro tip. You can also use your second loadout as a way to teleport faster. So you'll dump all your points into teleport to give it the most range, as well as dump all your points into hypercharge to get yourself more faster cast rates so you can teleport faster. It's a really good way to clear through zones. That way you can get through the campaign faster. Also in the written guide, I do have all the sub skill trees for each skill, some information on why I take certain nodes. Next, we'll talk about attribute allocation. While your leveling skills can be kind of expensive to use on, be sure that you put some points into energy. That way you can get some additional mana until you can find some sustain like mana on kill and some sources of that. Also, finding sources of lightning skill damage is really going to help you with killing monsters much faster. That's also going to help your sustain, obviously, because you're killing without having to use as many skills. So while you're leveling, you're going to follow a 50-50 split roll between intelligence and vitality with enough energy to feel comfortable. Once you get into the end game, dump all your points into intelligence. Now for the gearing section, I do have an entire gear section available for you. This is from level 1 to 100. Generally, while you're leveling from 1 to 100, you're just looking for, rares and mythics that'll match your character's damage type that have maybe some other stats on them. Like maybe you find some all skills or some lightning skill damage with life or faster cast rate, that sort of thing. If you end up finding some satanics that make sense to use, by all means use them. I have no way of you guaranteeing any satanic while you're leveling, so I'm not going to be recommending them here. However, you are going to run into some satanics, so by all means use them if they make sense for the build. Rune words are nearly guaranteed while you're leveling, just because you get the runes very, very easily. So I would recommend once you get into Nightmare, start farming out some of the bases for rune words, as well as there are some really, really early ones that you can put on as early as level 15, as early as level 31 that you can use as well. So I do have a full section on items that you will want to get while you're leveling, or that can help you while you're leveling. So be sure to read through this. I'm not going to go super in depth with this, just because for the most part it's all the same mythics and rares that you're looking for. Lightning skill damage, faster cast rate, life, mana, that sort of thing. Yeah. Beyond that, we do have some additional rune word options that you can look for while you're leveling. So be sure to check that section out. Same thing for the budget section. This is, generally just really good mythics or some of the satanics that you can start finding once you get into hell. So you're going to want to either buy some of these or look out for these while you're farming. You can also just get really good mythics, can actually carry you quite far. So I will have a full section of items to look for in the more budget fresh level 100 section that you can kind of decide how you want to put this together. There's a ton of really good options. For weapons, you're probably going to be using a Sky Song until you can get a Lucky Jaw rune and another Sky Song in your offhand. This is really like the spirit of Hero Siege. You'll have double Sky Songs, but you can also go Divine Contemplation. There's definitely some really good options in here as well. Same thing for helmets. You're probably going to be using a Scholar, but you can jump into a Crown of the Midnight or Creator Secrets. Those are very nice. Estropos, I would probably wear Estropos for quite a long time. It just has so many skills on it, but I could see why you might want to go like Gladstone to get some res. For gloves, any of these are going to be perfectly fine. For boots, any of these are going to be perfectly fine. I recommend that you go for Ghost because you have a teleport, so this will allow you to get the +2 skills for the most damage, but also having the ability to teleport on it. You also get some physical and magical damage reduction, which is really nice. For belts, any of these are perfectly fine. Rings, any of these are fine, right? I recommend that you try to get into Tectonic Frequencies. These have a ton of penetration on them and lightning skill damage. They're going to be a little bit expensive at the start of a season because there's a lot of people that are going to be playing Stormweaver, but this is what you want. There's really not a better option here. In terms of like the best in slot for rings, it would be Tectonic Fury at this point. Next, we have amulets. Any of these are perfectly fine. Charms, any of these affixes that you can find on rare mythic charms are going to be really nice to get, like resistances, magic skill damage, cast rate, movement speed, life, mana on kill, that sort of things. All of these are great to find on charms, as well as if you can pick up a win token. Again, these aren't really going to be an early game buy. The pin charms and the win token is now an SS tier. It is much more rare, as well as it's going to be quite expensive at the start of the season, just because there are other people that are going to be playing Stormweaver. So I imagine that this charm is going to be rather expensive, but I did want to show it here as maybe you decide to grind out for it, because it does get up to 35% enemy resistances. This is a big damage multiplier, so maybe you forego some of these other options and you just push for a token early. I just wanted to mention it early because it is a very fantastic way of getting additional damage. Now, once you hit the mid game, I do have an entire section here in the written guide that explains how to scale up the damage on your character. We're not going to go super into depth in here, but if you're maybe a bit newer in Hero Siege, or you would like an explanation on how you can get more damage out of your character, be sure you read through this. Now, once we hit the mid game, there are a ton of options to go for. I'm not going to go too in depth on all of these, just because there is the full written guide that you can kind of look through how you want to put your character together. But I will mention Sheep King's set is freaking insane, right? You get 18 skills on this. You get a ton of pen. You get all res. There's so much shit that you get on this set now. It is an exclusive set that you get from Shiponia, so you will have to make Shiponia mats in order to get into it. But fantastic set. I would highly consider maybe trying to get into one of these early on, or farming out and Shipponia to get one. It is going to be fairly rare, but it's such a freaking cool set. I'm glad that they buffed it. Now, talking about the mid game, Phil, he's an awesome player. He's genuinely just a really nice dude. I've known him for quite a while now. He's always been very kind to me. He's done a ton of testing on Stormweaver, and I've asked him if I can showcase a video that he's posted in the beta that has a ton of different gearing options and setups. He showcases some different things on dummies. He's just showcasing a lot with what Lightning Surge and Apocalypse of Thunder can do. So I am going to link that video in the description here. That way you guys can see these different setups in action. And I do have those setups listed in the mid-game section, so you can kind of get an idea, a bigger idea of how you want to put things together based on what I have and what he has, and you can put the puzzle together how you would like to, because there's a lot of different options when it comes to the mid-game for Stormweaver. Now, same thing for the end game. He does have a ton of stuff for end game, as well as I have a ton of stuff for end game. So when it comes to min-maxing characters in the end game, there's a lot of different ways that you can play. There's a lot of different play styles. Like my end game version that you see in the footage and his end game version are two very different things. And it's mainly because mine is an FCR stacker, just going zoom, speed through, running, like Hell 5 to Inferno essentially, versus his is, I think, a bit more able to do bossing. Mine cannot do bossing, right? So it's just different play styles, and not to say that like his is better or mine is better. It's just a different way that I would play Stormweaver. I mean, obviously if I wanted to do bossing, I could do some gear swapping and stuff, but for me personally, I just like speed farming. It's just my thing. So there's also corruption orbs going into season 6. You can slam items now that can give them additional juice, and neither one of us have items with juice that have been slammed on them, so that could also grant you some additional power. So here are some different recommended setups that we have. The first one here is sorry, I got a new mouse here, and like whenever I hit the scroll wheel down, it like zooms. Good luck getting this. This is going to do all your farming. This is going to have really good bossing potential in single target. We are going to have to do a little bit of testing with Nemo here, but yeah, you need a lot of freaking gear to really make Stormweaver's DPS. I think this setup in this version of the beta was like 20 bill single target, which is very good, but you obviously getting a Apocalypse of Thunder Antichrist helmet is kind of a troll, right? But I do want to mention that if you're able to get one, like this is the combo that you would use. This one is a bit more obtainable, but it's still quite insane in terms of the gear, because you still need, the unholy mana stacking chest, you still need a Dawnbringer, you still need 3 angelic runes, you still need a melon, Fulgi. There's still a lot going on here, but a bit more obtainable. And then if you want to see what I was wearing in the footage, this is kind of a meme. Do not try to play this unless you have a mirror to your version of it. But essentially what we're doing here is we're using the Fallen God Bloodlust. This converts a portion of your attack speed into FCR, and then I'm stacking either attack speed or FCR everywhere that I can. Now, it's actually kind of funny because this isn't even min-maxed yet. There's way more I could do here because of charm, or jewels, right? Jewels can now roll, like these moonstones are only 7% attack speed. You can get jewels of like 15-20% attack speed on them. So we could actually get a lot more. It's also important to note that attack speed from your weapon does not work with this, because attack speed on a weapon is local. It's not percentual. So that does not work for this, because you're not gaining percentual attack speed. You're just increasing the APS of your actual weapon, which does nothing for us, right? So still a bit of a meme, but very, very fun if you're able to, get the Exodia set up. For relics, you kind of already seen them, but here's the relics that I recommend. Now for chest augments, Monstrosity is probably still your best option here, right? It has been nerfed a bit in season 6, but it still does offer a pretty good amount of magic skill damage. You could also go with Spellslinger. This could give you some additional magic skill damage, as well as you gain cast rate based off of a portion of your magic skill damage. And since there's no longer a cap, this could actually be a decent option as well. For hero levels, I do have a whole video talking about hero levels. I have that linked in the description. Hero levels do not provide you much player power. Generally, it's more utility, and it really just kind of depends on what you're trying to get out of the build at any particular time. So there's a lot of different situations that you might go one hero level tree route over another one. So I have a full video that talks about all these different situations and why you might go one path over another. So be sure to check that out. The same for glyphs. Glyphs do not provide player power at all. They're only utility. So I have a video that shows you all of the glyphs and what they do. That way you can decide on what content that you want to engage with. For mercenaries, we are using the Act 1 Night Merc. This is going to provide us with the most amount of magic find. I do have a snippet of a skill tree for him, as well as I have a full list of gear. It's really just stacking as much magic find on him as you can. For loot filters, here's a quick way to set up your loot filter. Just press escape, options, gameplay, loot filter. On this right side here where it says highlight settings, you're going to click on lightning caster, right? And then for your actual filter, this is going to be while you're progressing through the game. You're just going to select these presets based on what difficulty that you're in. I am going to be making a video with some different loot filters, some highlight filters, and just different ways that you can manage your filter while you're leveling. Going into season 6 compared to season 5, loot filters have been cleaned up a little bit, but they're honestly pretty much the same. So I'm going to do my best to make a video to help explain how these filters work. That way you guys can have an easier time with the filters. However, if you're seeing a lot of items, not much I can do about that, right? Kind of how the game is until you get into the end game. Now, I do have a ton of different helpful resources available for newer players or returning players if you just need some additional information or just want some additional Hero Siege basics. So I have an ultimate beginner's guide available. This has pretty much anything and everything that you want to know. It's a 2.5 hour video with timestamps to everything. Be sure you check that out if you're a newer player. Before you start, make sure you equip your companion, set up your highlight filter, configure some of your controls. Here's what mine look like. Make sure that you change your minimap hotkey to tab. This is going to make it more like PoE or Diablo 2. Change your FPS to 60 FPS. I know, sucks, but you'll have way better performance, trust me. And then I show you kind of how to set up skills on your skill bar. There's some additional information in here on how to level efficiently, the difference between added damage and skill damage, zones that you'll want to farm, questing. There are no required quests in Hero Siege, but I do mention some of the quests that you might want to do for runes. There's a whole section again for the damage formula if you need to know how to scale up your damage. If you were interested in knowing what's going on for Season 6, there is the official Season 6 patch notes in the description as well. That way you can see all the changes, all of the added content coming for Season 6. As well as I have the official Hero Siege wiki. There's a lot of good information there. It is in the process of being updated, so just keep that in mind. Now, once you've hit level 100, I do have an entire early game tips and tricks progression video. This will give you an absolute shitload of things that you can do in the game at level 100, right? There's a lot of different things that you can do, and it's not just a straight line. This game doesn't have mapping, right? Necessarily, it doesn't have, you hit the end of the campaign and now you put a map in and go, right? There's different things that you need to kind of consider while hitting fresh level 100, and this kind of goes through all of those different options that you have. Next is the Hero Siege Helper. Be sure you bookmark this. Absolutely insane website. There's a ton of information here. Again, I have a link to a video talking all about this and everything that it does. So if you aren't familiar with the helper, be sure to check that out. And that's going to be it. That's going to wrap up everything on the Stormweaver Lightning Surge build for Season 6. Be sure to like and subscribe to the video. Keep up to date with all of my future content. Come check me out live at twitch.tv/Graxy_TV. We are going to be making our loot filter video. Probably do that live. That way I can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. So either way, thank you guys for watching. I will see y'all in the next video.